people run in circles. It's a very, very mad world.
It's a new day! Yes, it is!
Nothing can stop the Dream Team!
Look how they mess with my boy.
Don't get it twisted. Gears of War is dead. Don't trust the Metacritic scores. Don't trust the promotional blah blah. This beautiful goateed, roid proportioned stud is a dead man walking. To illustrate this fact, we gotta go back to the Byzantine Empire. You see, the history books will tell you that it fell in 1453, with Mehmet the Conqueror deciding to conquer. But anyone with their ear to the grapevine will let you know that the empire already really fell when Constantinople was ransacked in 1204, thanks to one of those pesky crusades. In 1261, Constantinople was retaken, but all the nobles were like... Fast forward to 2013 and the release of Gears of War Judgment. The original trilogy had garnered critical and commercial acclaim, but Judgment was a clearly inferior spin-off with middling sales and middling reviews. Think of it as the fourth Jonas Brothers. The 360 era was ending, and Papa Microsoft wanted to squeeze a little bit more cash flow from their second most popular franchise. Why is this the 1204 of Gears of War?
I'm gonna let you finish.
But first we gotta go back even further to the original Gears of War. The Gears of War original trilogy is underappreciated. Okay, it had the sales and the scores, but thanks to the shill media and maybe even the newer games, people have forgotten the bold storytelling that made those games special. First of all, these games weren't just the over-the-top action spectacles that the fake news media would like you to believe they are. The first game especially had a sprinkling of horror elements. It was about a band of soldiers fighting against an unknown, seemingly undefeatable enemy. Gears of War 2 is when the action went a little bit more OTT, a little bit more balls to the wall. Think Alien turning into Aliens. The of War in Gears of War wasn't just for show. Even though it's humans versus mole men, the best storytelling moments recognize the universal horrors of wartime. Spoiler alert, Dom Toretto's arc is one of the most hauntingly tragic in gaming. That scene in number 2 where he finally finds his wife after she was captured by the Locust, only to see her reduced to a husk, living only to feel pain, is not only heartbreaking on the side of a soldier losing his last embers of hope, but it also showcases how those who aren't soldiers get caught up in the pain and misery of war. It's so surprisingly layered and poignant, simply brilliant. Dom's death in Gears of War 3 is just a tragic end to a soldier who no longer had anything to live for. Gears of War is not just as a meathead killing spree fun fest. The player understands the pain of war. Carmine's death in number 2 is also surprisingly emotional for me. Him asking for his mom, I don't know, it just gets me in the feels. The fact that a throwaway death, almost an inside joke, carried so much emotional weight should tell you just how strong the storytelling was in this era of Gears of War. I'm telling you, if the characters were properly proportioned, or maybe if there was just more pretentiousness, or even a little bit of self-insertion, maybe then the series would be given the respect it deserves. What's a game without gameplay? Well, let me tell you that the OG Gears gameplay was first in class. It was a real innovation in the field of making your character hide behind cover. And Horde mode? Well damn, talk about genuine AAA innovation. Gears of War 3 Horde mode? Let's just say inevitable destruction has never felt so good. Okay, so now that we know that the OG Gears was the real deal, why is Judgment the 1204? Well, this is when the series switched hands. It left Epic Games. I wonder how they're doing. It started to be developed by the Coalition. They 1261'd it by bringing back this guy, a lead designer for the OG Gears. The fact remained that the core team was gone. Not only that, they made the fatal flaw post-Judgment to attempt a semi-remake. Think of Gears of War 4 as a bit of a Force Awakens type of moment. Gears 4 rehashed the same story beats as the OG Gears, but with less likable characters and only chucked in the old heroes for fan service. Playing through the campaign, there's just an inescapable feeling of why should I care? The gameplay is the exact same as it has always been. If a kid hopped onto Gears 4, they would think it's the definition of generic. And that's not because the Gears of War gameplay loop is broken, it's just that what was once generation defining and innovative has become so copied that it is now outdated. It's the Treasure Island effect. To make things worse, they pulled the Microsoft soft reboot special by adding extra robot enemies. Is this a ploy to make the games more E for everyone? Yup. And if that isn't insulting enough, let me get something straight. I hate fighting robots in games, okay? I need to fight fleshy beings. I need to feel their bones crunching, their blood gushing, their screams of pain. Clinkety clankety just isn't the same. It doesn't hit right. Unless we're talking about an AI sentient mind freak situation, get that robot shit out of my face. Now let's talk about the real dumpster fire. Remember when I said this was the 1261? That was a lie. This is the real 1261. You notice something? They took out the of war. Another E for everyone move. Yup, but it goes beyond that. This ain't just a marketing ploy, believe it or not. The essence of the pain of wartime has genuinely been stripped, not just from the title, but also from the narrative and the gameplay too. You see, I intuitively felt that something was off, but it wasn't until I watched Crowcat's vid that everything then just clicked. The weight, the gore, the sound, the destruction, everything has been stripped away. If you play the new Modern Warfare right after playing the OG MW2, you realize that iteratively a lot has been added, subtle improvements. For Gears of War, it's the opposite. Not only has the style of gameplay that is quintessentially last gen not been innovated on, but it actively feels worse. It feels less of war. The Coalition added light open world elements in the campaign of 5 to address the dated style of gameplay, but these elements feel like a cop-out, a bandage slapped on without addressing the larger issue. Is Gears of Friendship 5 as narratively poo-poo as The Last Jedi? That's it. It's such a lackluster story that they pigeonholed a Mass Effect choice at the very end, except no one cares about either of the characters, so it has the emotional weight of choosing between OJ or Coffee. Now what's happened to the once GOAT tier horde mode? Well, there's two ways to add depth. One is to add to the foundations you've already laid out, aka continually digging the hole you've already started. The other way is by constantly digging tiny little holes. One way leads you to diamonds. The other way leads you to having an unending list of boring, tedious shit to do when you just want to play the game. Horde mode has gone the second way. Perhaps the most egregious sin of Gears of Christianity 5 are the microtransactions. These are low-key some of the most obtrusive microtransactions in all of gaming. Maybe it's because Microsoft is playing the good guy these days, or maybe it's because no one cares about Gears of Peace anymore, but no one seems to talk about this. We already know that you can't trust the shill media, but even reviewers that I actually trust gave it a good score, probably because in their ivory towers of free review codes, a quaint little bout of nostalgia is a pleasurable jaunt. For the salt of the earth masses who splash 60 quid and wait years for Gears of Aristocracy 5, it is undoubtedly a crappy product. To keep it real, I will say that the new Gears games are polished and competent, but still disappointing when compared to the originals. And I feel that even more so having gone back to play those originals in the making of this video. Let Gears of War die. It is through death that one can find rebirth. There is literally a perfect guide to rebirth in God of War. In the same year that Gears of War 1204'd with Judgment, God of War had its own dirty little fork Jonas brother. What did they do? They let it die, so that God of War could be reborn as the world's most critically acclaimed father simulator.
Mind your tongue, boy.
Look, Microsoft, keep the of War and get rid of the numbers. It's easy math.